Hi, I'm Jan Kowalski with Green Slate I Incorporated, and tonight I'm joined by Dr. Obari Cartman. Welcome, Dr. Cartman.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, this is a live interactive show, and you're watching CAN TV Channel 21. We're also streaming online at cantv.org/hotline. And tonight we're going to be discussing Dr. Cartman's work, including critical thinking for young black men, for emotional intelligence, intimacy, and communication. So for the next 25 minutes, you're more than welcome to participate in today's discussion by calling in to the number displayed on the bottom of your screen. And that number should be 312-738-1060. And you can participate by calling with a comment, question, or concern relating to a topic addressed by Dr. Cartman or myself. Now, before we get into Dr. Cartman, let me tell you a little bit about Green Slate I, which is our sponsor. Let me give you the information for Green Slate. Hopefully our viewers can see this. We're sponsored by Green Slate I Incorporated, and you can see their website here, their email address, and of course their phone number is 217-600-1846. And their founder is Ziv Sistrunk. Green Slate I Incorporated is dedicated to assisting ex-convicts. They have any number of programs, including reentry programs, Feeding the Families of Inglewood, Kirby's Kids Camp, and last but not least, they have a community service program through the Circuit Court of Cook County. So if you have some community service hours that you need to fulfill, please call Green Slate I Incorporated. Right now they've got this exciting initiative that I'm really excited about. What they're doing is they're taking voters and they're getting them registered. So if you need to complete some community service hours, please call Green Slate and join in their voters registration drive. And I'm Jan Kowalski. That's Kowalski. Let me show you. There you go. Kowalski. And now for some people who might not be familiar with Polish surnames, I know it is a mouthful there. Let me show you my little friend here. And at least I think he's adorable. There's my friend, my little koala. And he's giving you the thumbs up. Not the middle finger. That's his thumb, the little koala thumb. And he's on his skis. Why do I have a koala on ski? Because I'm Jan Kowalski. Now, some people might say, yeah, Kawasaki. No, I'm really not a Kawasaki. It's Kowalski. And again, to help you remember the koala on skis, let me show you my friend here. And here's another koala, and this koala is 100% qualified. Just to help you remember that I'm Jan Kowalski. And now, I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Cartman. And before I let you speak with him, let me just tell you a little bit about him. He's got an extensive resume, but just briefly. Dr. Cartman is not just a father, son, brother, uncle. He's also a thinker, writer, therapist, photographer, and drummer. He does have an undergraduate degree from Hampton University. He's got a PhD in clinical and community psychology from Georgia State University, one of those Southern boys.
Southern boy.
He's a Southern boy. He's worked as a therapist in a variety of settings. And in addition, he has helped work with trauma, works as a trauma-focused clinician and restorative justice coach with HELP. So, Doctor, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I wish I had some pictures of a little cart and a little man.
A little cart and a little man, so you guys can remember Dr. Cartman.
Wow.
Now, Dr. Cartman, from my perspective, you are an exciting man, and you've done some really great things so far. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
So background is mental health and psychology. My focus became working with young black men after just being out in the field and realizing that there weren't a lot of other African-American men doing psychology. And so anytime I would go to a clinic, that would be my whole caseload. I would get all the boys. They would send me all the teenage boys. And after a couple of years, that became like my thing, just to have critical conversations around emotional intelligence. I became really creative around using like hip-hop in the programming and developing rites of passage programs, specifically thinking about how to help young men discover their purpose, navigate some of the systems that have created roadblocks for them, and to learn how to have some self-interrogation, to have reflection, to help them become their best selves, to communicate clearly, to have integrity, to be honest and authentic, and thinking through what are the processes in those conversations that can help them get to where they're trying to go.
So, Doctor, do you have a message out there for our young viewers who might be ex-convicts on how to develop authentic relationships?
I think that it's important for ex-cons and for young black men in general to always understand that in the midst of a world where there are obstacles, systems set up that are trying to create barriers for success, that we have a long legacy and history of excellence that we connect to. A lot of my teachings connect back to African culture, to civilizations that predated all of the written histories that we know about, and that it's always important to me as an encouraging reminder for myself that our history that didn't begin with slavery, that it's not just doom and gloom, it's not just disenfranchisement and oppression, but the legacy of what it means to be black and African in this country and in this world is much bigger than some of the stories you might see on TV or the news or the history books even in school. And so I always start there, that the beginning of our story is excellence and the end of our story can be excellence. We just have to learn to tap into the struggles and the triumphs that have been a part of our history from the very beginning of time.
Wow, and how can you teach young men to be more introspective? It seems like it's a spectrum rather than just a one-time only deal. But are there some guides you can give to our viewers?
I think that, well, I wrote a book that is definitely a guide. I have some curriculum that facilitates some of those conversations, but the basic idea is to find yourself making critical observations and making the connections between the things that you say you want, the things that are values and priorities for you, and the way your life is set up. And so if you say, my family is the most important thing to me, if you say, my children are the most important thing to me, if you say, giving back and volunteering, then whatever those things are should be reflected in the time you spend. And the part of the beginning of the observations and the interrogation is looking at what's happening in my life. Like, am I spending time doing what's important to me? Do I keep bumping into the same walls? Do I see conflicts in my interpersonal relationships? Do they have these same themes? And like to use the very data that you create every day to become a ongoing assessment tool about whether or not you're at a place that you're happy with, and to then begin to try to undo and figure out what it is that is at the root of your successes and your failures. And every single person has that. Every single person has a list of things that they see, they strive for, and roadblocks. And sometimes roadblocks are external, sometimes they're internal. Sometimes they are just our own trappings in our brain, the scripts that get passed down generation from generation that we internalize from the society and from our families. And the beginning of the interrogation for me just is to look at your life, to look at your day, to say, am I satisfied? Am I happy? Am I peaceful? Am I just maintaining? Am I going through? Am I just surviving? Or am I really like experiencing joy for real? And if not, and if I'm not contributing nothing, and if I'm not leaving a legacy that's valuable, what can I do to begin to take the steps towards creating that for my life and for my children and for my children's children? And that's an everyday ongoing process for sure.
Well, Doctor, if you don't mind me asking you, how would you end a cycle where you wake up every day, you're not happy because you don't have a good job, I don't know, suppose you're not happy in your relationship with your significant other, and you just go about all day and you're not happy. So how do you break out of that cycle and find something that you find self-fulfilling?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the things that I would say maybe men do worse at is finding other reasons for our lack of happiness outside of ourselves and blaming somebody else for it, saying that somebody didn't give me an opportunity or somebody got in my way.
So instead of blaming my job or the interview or my girlfriend, taking a look at oneself?
Starting with yourself. People say that you can't like love someone else until you love yourself. I think the beginning of that is before you can love yourself, you have to know yourself. And that means just really sitting quietly and investigating how your body reacts to different moments. To not get we have so many distractions. We can wake up every moment and have a telephone or a TV or radio or earphones. Like people are always getting information from other things, especially now in the information age. Sometimes there's a lack of wisdom in that information. Sometimes it's just scattered bits of things getting thrown at you. And the beginning of the self-interrogation to find the source of joy in you has to mean just being quiet for a little while, just slowing down, turning off all the devices, sitting still, looking at yourself in the mirror, taking like long, honest looks at yourself.
So turning it off and thinking about where you want to go.
Thinking, feeling, all of it, absolutely.
Thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
And then where do you go? How do you say, significant other, this isn't working, job, this isn't working, friends, this isn't working? How do you go about making the change in your life?
So once you begin to really sit in your authentic self, the process of manifesting those things that come to you become an aspect of courage. There has to be some willpower that goes into it. A lot of people have gut feelings or get messages from ancestors or angels or whatever you believe in and sit on that or ignore it or deny it. And part of the first step in that is to once sit, be still, listen to yourself, learn to trust yourself. And then there's a relationship that happens between you honoring that feeling, honoring these insights that come into your mind, and then taking a leap of faith, taking the risks, having the courage to say, I'm not happy in this relationship for this reason, for that reason, but communicating clearly, being honest and authentic, going to your job and saying, I deserve better, we need to make some changes, or I'm going to have to move, and not just being complacent, not just settling with what you think you deserve from whatever you were told about who you are in the world. But having the insight that leads to the courage, leads to the conviction to act, and then developing a relationship where you learn to trust yourself more and more by honoring these things that are inside of you that are telling you, do better, do more, have more discipline, work harder. And again, the work hard is really important. It's not, you can't just sit and pray and hope and meditate on this stuff.
Right.
And you really just got to put feet in front of feet, get your hands dirty. You're going to get tired. You might lose some sleep. But all of it is worth it when you arrive on the other side of a life that is fulfilling, that is contributing something, that is honoring the reason that you were created. And again, there's so many distractions from that. But the steps towards that begin with having awareness of that and then having the courage to act on it.
Well, doctor, how do we get around the negativity? Because there will be, a lot of people are afraid to change the status quo. It's good enough now, I'm afraid to change it. And I know you talked about courage, but at the same time, you're going to be you might be met by open hostility. Why do you want to quit your job? Why do you want to change the terms of your employment? Why do you want to change your friends? And they're going to try to keep you in the same status quo.
Yeah.
So how do you face this negativity and keep that goal in mind, doctor?
You expect it. You anticipate it. You run towards it. Any kind of fear that needs to be overcome has to be addressed first. You're honest about it, and you prepare for it. Like, you really just have to wrap your mind around the expectation that there's going to be obstacles, that there's lots of roads that are easy, that are convenient, that are laid out for you. For black men, particularly, there's ways there's a system set up for us to be cogs in a wheel, to be used by other institutions and people making money off of black men and labor. We're talking about prison, and from music to entertainment. There's all kinds of lanes for us that are easy. But if you want to do something meaningful...
Doctor, hold on. Caller, do you have a comment or question for Dr. Cartman? Caller, can you speak up? We can barely hear you. Nope, I think we lost our caller. Sorry, Dr. Cartman. Again, you were talking about how to overcome the negativity that you're going to reach.
Yes, just deciding that it's just a part of it. It's a part of the struggle. Anything that's successful has to be met with some obstacle. And that's the strength that you gain from the fortification of going through that fire. Just makes you tougher, makes you more resilient, makes you stronger, makes you clearer. And the more you withstand obstacles and challenges, the better you're able to do to have more of an impact for yourself and for your family.
Easier it'll be next time. Let me just pause for station ID here, Doctor. Okay. You're watching Green Slate 1 Incorporated on CanTV Channel 1 and cantv.org/hotline. And today we're joined by Dr. Obari Cartman. And tonight we're discussing critical thinking and developing authentic manhood. So give us a call and join the discussion by calling 312-738, and that's 1060. Did we have a caller? Caller, do you have a comment or question? No, I think we lost the caller. Dr. Cartman, let me ask you. It's going to have to be difficult for people to find that authentic journey, given that there's a complete absence, well, not a complete, there's a huge gaping hole of role models out there for young men to follow. So what do you suggest to our young viewers that are trying to find their way and trying to buck the system and get to some place that's healthy, happy, and good for their lives?
I think that there's something important about getting out of our comfort zones. And so if you're a young viewer, if you are stuck in a neighborhood in a rut, it's going through the motions, then part of looking for inspiration has to include doing a little bit of work. Just free newspapers. The internet is a wealth of opportunities. There are things happening in Chicago, and I'm sure all over the country, that have gatherings of positive African American or mixed people of color, whatever it is that you connect with, that are interested in things that you think are important and valuable to you. You just got to find them.
Hello?
You got to go out. You got to get on the bus.
Hello?
Hang on, Doctor.
Okay.
Caller, do you have a comment or question for Dr. Cartman?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You know, whatever everything you're saying is great if it was a perfect world, but it's not. Because if you have pride, you know, I mean, you'll go and work like I did. I was working in a steel mill, lost my job. I went and worked 12 hours a day for $25 for 12 hours washing dishes because I had a family. I had to take care of my family. So what I'm saying is this. You don't have any time to have, you know, to wait. If you have a family, you got to go out there and do what you got to do to make some money. Thankfully, about 4 or 5 months later, I came into a good job, and everything was solved. But for 4 months, I suffered, but I did it for my family. That's the best case scenario I know of, instead of just dreaming about doing something. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Doctor, do you have a comment or question about the grin and bear it mentality of our prior caller?
I don't disagree with that. I think that there are temporary moments when you have to grin and bear it, when you have to survive. But when you do that, you also have to honor yourself enough to create opportunities outside of just what you have to do that feed those things that really bring you joy. And if you are working hard and you losing sleep, and if it's a job that you don't want, part of the joy you get is from knowing that you're feeding your family and taking care of your responsibilities. I think that is the part of what happiness is, just being responsible. But in addition to that, we want to be careful not to be models for our children of just complacency. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, you deal with the cards that you've been dealt, and the world is not perfect, but the world is also a flexible, growing, evolving thing. The world isn't just some theoretical thing. The world is the people that live in the world. And the people are always growing and changing and living. And the more we challenge ourselves to do that optimally, to do that creates peace and possibilities for as many people as possible, the world could be a very different world tomorrow than it is today. And I think that's up to every single person doing what they know they were created to do, and not just going through the motions. Yeah.
So, Doctor, what do you have to say for young viewers who might be stuck in a menial job that's not fulfilling their hopes and dreams, but that they have to work to support their family? Do you have any guidance for our viewers on this, Doctor?
Yeah, I mean, for that, I mean, it's really just about time management. You spend some time doing things you don't want to do, and make sure you spend some time doing things that elevate you. And I wouldn't suggest that anybody just go quit their job and start playing the guitar, right? Or
unless they're really good at it. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, even still, I mean, I appreciate the sentiment of the other caller. Like, if your kids are going to suffer because you are just pursuing your dreams, then there has to be some balance. So the answer is balance. That you spend some time doing things that you don't want to do, in order to free yourself up to do things that you love to do, until you get to a place where you have opportunities where you can do that full time. And everybody might not be able to, but everybody has a responsibility to do something that brings them joy and that teach their children to do that. As a mental health advocate, that's part of what it means to really be alive. We have enormous amount of violence and an increasing amount of suicide, which I think is a result of a lack of a zeal for life that we have to tap into. We have to teach, we have to model, and that has to include prioritizing time that feeds us, that feeds our spirits, that gives us joy, that makes us laugh and cry and smile, and the range of human emotions that is not just working for somebody who's sitting back watching you and making the real money from it. The way the system's set up is that people that have figured out not just grinding every day are doing that on the backs of people that have decided that this is what their life is supposed to be, and it's just lots of inequities in that system. Everybody deserves to live the life they're created for, and I think you have an obligation to do that more so than just surviving and making it through the day.
Well, doctor, how would you, if someone came up to you and told you that, I'm stuck in this dead-end job and I'm just extremely depressed and suicidal, what advice would you give these people? Or this person? How do we change that dynamic?
I think there's a couple of things that can happen. So sometimes you can change the situation. And I think there are other times when part of the work is shifting your perspective to learn to make the best of what you got and learning to be grateful for the opportunities that you do have. There are people that are not working at all that would love a dead-end job. And so I found myself, just the other day complaining about gas prices when somebody walked up asking me for money. Right, he would have loved to be in a position to be driving a car,
right,
to be complaining about gas prices. So part of it is perspective. Part of it is being able to be at a job that is not ideal, but could be fun if we approached it different. Could be meaningful if we made value of it. If we challenged the job and the workforce to incorporate things that are valuable to us. And so I think both things always need to happen. We need to be thinking about what are ways that I'm powerful enough to change my circumstance, to create new realities based on the skills and abilities that I have, and what are ways that I need to accept my lot, that I need to accept my position and learn to find gratefulness and appreciation for the things that I do have while simultaneously trying to make them better at the same time. I think it's not an either or, I think it's a both and for me.
And we had a show before, doctor, and it was about the benefits of losing. So I just want to put this plug in, and you're the doctor, you're going to have to tell me here. But I think sometimes part of that critical thinking that you have to engage in is to say, gosh, I'm not good at this, whether that this is communicating or adding, whatever it is. You have to acknowledge your own flaws and then find a way, hopefully, to either fix them, in other words, take a math class become a better communicator, either that or find another job so that you have other skills that can shine.
Yeah.
So, doctor, one more thing, we're going to have to wrap it up very soon, but I was hoping that you could tell our viewers about what was the impetus for you. You've got a non-for-profit entity, I think, doctor?
Yeah, I'm the president of the Chicago Association of Black Psychologists right now, a national organization with the Chicago chapter. We have conversations about mental health and wellness every second Saturday. And then I'm also the program director for Real Men Charities, which is a nonprofit.
Let's give that name again. Real Men?
Real Men Charities.
Real Men Charities.
Are most famous for the Father's Day event called Real Men Cook, an annual Father's Day event. They've been doing it for almost 30 years, where fathers come out, feed the family. We focus on good health. And we've been expanding this year to do more programming throughout the year that helps serve the families, to help support young men, support families, support fatherhood, developing curriculums to help them think through this kind of stuff we're talking about, emotional wellness, preventing suicide, healthy relationships. And so Real Men Charities is an organization that is trying to do more to respond to the need of the city to help really wrap our arms around our families, particularly with our young boys.
So, doctor, I was wondering, before we have to leave, I was wondering if you have any words of advice for our young viewers as to their relationships with significant others.
Be honest. Be honest, be caring, be tender. We're in a world where men are taught that manhood is about strength and aggression and control, and we have to undo those messages. We have to resist that teaching, because in the world you might have to fight, but in your house, with your loved ones, intimacy has got more to do with being vulnerable and being compassionate, being understanding, having acceptance for yourself and your partner, being able to communicate honestly. And so there's a lot that men need to learn differently about being successful in healthy relationships.
So in order to have an authentic relationship, you have to be vulnerable, I guess.
Yes, I agree.
And thank you for watching and participating in today's show.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm Jan Kowalski with Slate I Incorporated, and my guest tonight has been Dr. Obari Cartman. Thank you, Dr. Kurtman, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And tonight, my technician has been our founder and executive producer has been Ziff Sistrunk. And thank you, and have a good night.